Hey guys, this is Jamila. She is our private chef and she's going to be helping you with tips and tricks to show you how to make your food delicious and not spoil the nutritional value.
Yes.
So she's going to be offering some of her own services. Jamila, what are you going to be doing?
Okay, so I can do some private lessons if you really need that. And then we've got obviously these videos where you can watch me and get some tips and tricks.
Tips and tricks, the way to make things, but also only the private chefing is within the Johannesburg area, unless you really wanted to come out and fly over somewhere. She's going to come to you, she's going to give you a private lesson, or you can just stick with the normal videos because we're going to be giving you fun facts, tips, we're going to be showing you different ways that you can cook your meals.
Ooh, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun!
That was fun. Eating or making poor choices. Even if you like jot something down, write it down, scrumple it up, throw it away.
My name is Jamila.
My name is Jamila. I'm 21, turning 22 this year. My obesity, I think I'd say I struggled with it maybe around the age of 8. It's kind of where it started. I was quite an extrovert in the beginning, and then I started becoming a little more shy once I started picking up more weight. That then caused bullying, which then made me turn to food as a comfort.
Around about what age was this?
I'd say 10.
Okay.
I really struggled with voicing my opinion when it came to how I felt about being bullied as an obese child. And at some point, I just shut off. And food then became even more of a comfort. It turned to me eating throughout the day. I would eat meals that I would say, were enough for like 4 or 5 people.
Sure.
And that would be maybe 4 or 5 times a day. That's how much I would eat.
So 4 like proper big meals,
yeah,
4 to
huge
4,
meals.
4 times a day. Would you be eating like snack foods as well, like chocolates and candies?
Yeah, so I would go through like a 6-pack of juices.
Sure.
It would be anything. It could be fruit juice, it could be whatever I felt like drinking on that day, and I'd drink 6 cartons of that.
Sure.
My grandpa, he thought that eating made me happy, so he kind of would like initiate that sometimes. So if he
kind of enabled it, but he
Yeah.
wanted you to be happy.
Yeah.
It wasn't coming from a bad place.
No, to him, seeing someone eating is a sign of being happy. You're good, you're fine. I never knew how to say no, so I would just take whatever he gave me and I'd eat it. Then my mom started getting worried because now I was getting things like diabetes scares and my cholesterol was bad.
At what age was this now?
13.
Oh wow. A lot of people think, oh, when you're young it's impossible to have bad health, you know what I mean?
The doctor actually put it into perspective for me. He said if I were to have another kg of sugar, I would be a type 2 diabetic.
Wow.
That's when my mom decided, okay, we need to cut everything out. We went on an eating plan. I had to weigh my foods. It was very high protein, low carb. And that's where I kind of fell in love with the whole idea of being healthy, because I saw the benefits that it had. I felt better, I had more energy, I was a lot happier. Eventually I went off the plan because then I figured out what I needed to do to sustain my weight loss and to keep it going.
How long were you on that plan for, roughly?
I'd say about a year.
Okay. That you learned by doing, because you were finding the kind of foods that you were eating regularly and you were feeling better because of them. You can't stick to some one thing the entire time.
No.
You get bored and it becomes stale, but you learn from doing things like that.
Yeah, I think that also then sparked my interest in culinary, because then I learned how to make things differently. Because when I did this eating plan, it was very straightforward, like you have to boil your vegetables. You know, you have to steam whatever, your fish, whatever. So I decided, there's other ways of doing it. It will taste better maybe if I grilled it, because it's a different technique, you get a different flavor out of it. So then I decided, okay, culinary is the best way for me to keep with the healthy eating, because then I can help people understand the way of being creative without feeling like this is what you have to do it this way. I've struggled with
learning
weight.
more, you find more flexibility in it as well.
I've still struggled with my weight. It's been fluctuating. I've noticed that when I stress, I turn to food, because that's what I know, that's what I am comfortable with. I've found different things to snack on that won't kind of take me back to where I was, say 10, 12 years ago. So yeah, it's been tough, but it's a work in progress. My mom has now also jumped on board with the whole
Awesome.
eating differently. And she also went on the plan because she was also quite
At the
overweight.
same time with you.
Yeah. Now she's also very involved in a lot of the shopping that we do. Maybe we should get sweet potato, not like an actual potato. What do you think? Teaching her as well is helping me come up with more ideas on how to cook differently, what ingredients to use for different foods. I'm just looking to now broaden that and get people on board, other people other than my family.
Teaching is the best way to learn, actually, because when you teach something, you actually learn more than you realize. How important was the support from having your mom doing that eating plan with you to you when you were younger and now?
She's like the only person I have. I draw a lot of inspiration from her. So if I'm doing something with her, I feel more comfortable. Having her push me to do it made me feel like, okay, I'm fine, I'll be okay with this. I can get my family on board as well, and they'll understand how important it is to both of us, not just myself or her. I think when she falls off, I fall off. So if we go on a diet together and she decides, let's cheat today, and then cheating turns to, okay, let's just leave the diet altogether. She's a very big influence in this whole journey for me.
But it's really nice to have someone by your side.
Yeah.
Even when you're going through the tough times and you might be cheating on your diet, to have that person maybe turn around after a couple of days and be like, okay, we cheated on our diet, it's out there, but things are not lost. We can still start up again, or we can start worming our way back into where we want to be.
Yeah.
It's not just your immediate surrounding. Your immediate surrounding is super important, like having you and your mom, if you both live here, to support each other by doing the same things, and then that person understands exactly why you're making different kinds of food, and they're not putting you down because of it. They're uplifting you because they're doing it with you. How important is it to have that support as well when you go to like a family gathering and then everyone's eating like whatever, and then you want to make different choices, but if you and your mom are kind of there together saying, we're on our own eating plan, we're not going to eat like all of the chicken wings and things like that, we're going to have maybe a chicken breast. You don't feel that judgment. When people don't understand what you're doing, they kind of, oh, Jamila, it's fine, just eat with us today. Do you find that she supports you through things like that as well?
She does, because at first, because at the time we were still living with my grandparents when we started the plan, so my grandparents didn't understand what the whole big deal was with me being slightly overweight. My grandpa thought, oh, you're depriving the child of food, she's still young, let her
She needs to grow.
But it wasn't in the healthiest way. So for a while, they were confused. They didn't really support it as much, but once they saw what it was doing, then they understood a lot better. Now my gran, when I tell her, if I go over to her place, I'm like, listen, I can't really have this. She's like, okay, you're on a diet, I understand. What can I offer you that will still keep within your diet, but still make you feel like you're still part of the family, like you're eating with us. I also taught her, she asked me different ways of, how can I cook this broccoli? Do it the same every day. When I prepare this, is it okay if I add this and that? She's now also she's getting involved in the whole eating right thing and understanding how important it is. Not only for herself, but for everyone else in our family.
But she's also learning that flexibility now, because she's saying, I still want to eat this, what other ways can I cook it? And that's so important with people. A lot of people find a plan, and they do it and it works for them, and then they carry on doing it and it becomes really stale and boring, and also your body gets used to it and you stop getting the results that you want from it. It's so important to know different ways of taking the foods that you've learned to love and that have given you the results and just putting a swing on it. Even if it's cooking it in a slightly different way, like boiling it instead of grilling it, or spicing it differently, or actually using spices you've never heard of. I mean, how important is that been for you, and how much have you learned about that now that you've done your culinary course?
Now I've actually learned I don't really rely on spices as much anymore. Things like fresh herbs add a very nice balance to a meal. We tend to, want to add your Raja spice and your whatever spices that you're used to using, but you forget that things like herbs offer a very nice fresh alternative to what you're used to. I have also tried to get my family into understanding that you don't really need to keep doing what you're used to doing all the time. My uncle has his own little herb garden thing going on.
That's really cool.
My gran is more interested in getting fresh produce, so we have family that have farms in Durban, so they'll bring stuff for her, and she'll use that as opposed to going and getting something that's probably been spritzed with fertilizers and all these bad pesticides. she now understands the value of something fresh versus something that you're so used to.
It plays a really big role.
It does, yeah.
So that's the journey. How much did that play into as you've grown older now? You've experienced the one side of it where you got bullied because you maybe picked up a lot of weight, and then your self-confidence starts to go down. How much has learning by doing helped you get to where you are now and overcome a lot of things, and also just be more comfortable with yourself so that you can start to build up your confidence again?
I've had a lot of friends do comment like, oh, you've lost a lot of weight, you look good, how did you do it? That kind of helped me speak more about it because people are asking, as opposed to me just going off and telling people, hey, if you want to lose weight, this is what you should do. I think having also people around me that have sort of dealt with the same thing that I've dealt with before, they also offer that support and they push me to tell my story. And you know, you've done so well, why don't you share it with people? So now I've become a little more comfortable with being open about it and giving people advice, not really dictating, but just, you know, helping you through it. It is tough in the beginning, but once you get used to it, you become more comfortable, and you then also have a story to share with others.
100%, and it's all about the story and where you've come from and where you are now. That progression in yourself, and that's a confidence build as well, because you can look back and you can say, look, I sometimes felt like I hit rock bottom, but I kept on going. I tried to learn new things, and through doing that, I've uplifted myself, I've uplifted my self-confidence, I've uplifted my self-esteem, and that's empowering. Just looking back at the challenges that you've had, getting to where you are now. It doesn't mean that now where you are now is perfect, or it never will be perfect, but that journey is really the important thing about our lives in my perspective.
I still have a whole lot more to tell. There's still a lot of things that I'm struggling with at the moment, which I'm trying to find a different way of dealing with it. I find that talking about it helps a lot more, because then you get people that say, hey, you know, I also dealt with this, maybe you should try doing this. Now more open with telling other people's stories as well, helping them get out there and saying, you know, I also struggled with this. Because I've noticed nowadays that people are a little afraid of opening up because they feel like I'm going to be judged, or they're going to now define me by my story or whatever it is that I went through. So I think just having all these people around me that have dealt with it helps me speak about it. If I didn't have it, I don't think I'd be discussing this at all. Like, I wouldn't even think
and
about
learning how important it is just to verbalize things and get them off your chest. It loses its power over you once you aren't afraid to talk about something. When you're scared and you're keeping things inside, that's when things really bug you the most. If you haven't come to terms with it, in dealing with it in a place where you're not scared to be judged anymore. But as soon as you break that power over it that it has over you and verbalize it, then it's out there. It's like, this is part of me. If you want to judge me because of that, that's on that other person, but this is part of who you are because it's part of your story, it's part of the experiences that you've had.
Yeah.
And yeah. Anything else you want to add?
No, I feel like I've actually told you everything that I've wanted to.
In a nutshell, obviously.
The main thing is that I've gotten over it. Still, you know, learning how to talk about it and help people through it. That is basically my story.
Awesome. What advice could you give someone that maybe was in your position when you were younger, or maybe for parents? What would you advise them to do if they can see their child is struggling with their weight, and you can see that as a result starting to come less out of their shell or anything like that? What advice would you give parents or children?
I think with parents, it's very important to speak to your child in a way that they feel comfortable with opening up with what it is they're struggling with. Because I was afraid to talk to my mom, because I didn't know if she would judge me, I didn't know if she would understand. Giving your child the opportunity to feel comfortable around you will help with dealing with if it's obesity. You can then say, okay, let's sit down, let's talk about it. How do you think, how do you feel we can fix this? In terms of the people dealing with it, talking helps. Even if it's your friend, if it's an aunt, an uncle, if you don't feel comfortable talking to your mom, I think it's a better alternative when you talk to a family, because another family member, because they understand. I don't think you'll feel as judged, or you won't feel as scared to open up because you are comfortable around that person. Also, just don't be in your feelings too much to things like overeating or making poor choices. So even if you like jot something down, write it down, crumple it up, throw it away. you've felt it, you've put it on paper, you've seen it, you can now move on and keep